This is a passionate plea for the sake of others, because it seems when I play it for myself from the depths of my soul, as I was reaching out and up from the abyss of my life that was dragging me down, it felt as if no one could hear my silent screams for help. Screams so loud and panicked it tore my vocal cords into splinters and wrenched my throat until the pain felt like sandpaper against a cement wall, only no one could hear it. Until one day, as I was about to give up, give in, and claim that I was defeated, I was saved. And my savior didn't just happen by one day as I continued my rants and ravings, as I cursed and clawed, as drool drizzled down my chin, as my eyes were dry, parched of moisture, no longer shedding tears, but felt like steel pads, as I blinked away the day and cowered from the night. No, my savior was there the entire time. On those days when I knew that I was going to have to make some one more devastating decision, but it's going to be the last, I swear I won't have to do this again decision. My Savior was right there. And when I was tearing to shreds the last vestiges of hope that I had, because there wasn't enough nickels or dimes or pesos coming my way, and I just was going down that dark and dismal tunnel because I didn't care if there was a light at the end. And just when I was signing off and saying my goodbyes, I was through yelling and fighting, debating, procrastinating, and pontificating. There he was. And I said I wasn't going to plead anymore. I knew what I'd done. I wasn't proud of it. And if I had to do it again, well, I just have to cross that bridge, wouldn't I? But I know in the back of my mind, I was still crying out for help. I was still hoping on hope that help would come. And even though I'd committed myself to the inevitable, I'd set myself on a course of no return. But he was right there, all along. He was actually waiting for me to stop all the screaming, yelling, and confusion I was putting myself through. And when that happened, there he was. His hand was out, and his arms were around me, and I was gathered into them like a baby. And I cried the cleansing cry of a lost soul who just wanted somebody to listen. I realized that had I not stopped and taken stock of myself, my life, my present, what I was about to embark upon, I would never have heard him. So I make this passionate plea to you. You who seem to believe that there is no way out, no one person who will come to your aid, hold your hand, see you through, stand by your side, give you a shoulder to cry on, listen when you're down, celebrate with you when all is well, be in the midst, or just be quiet and let you know that there's just where you want them to be when you need assurance. I have a Savior. He wants to be yours too.
Well, hello, people. This is Johanna Bright, and I am your host for Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. You can find me wherever you want to read really great poetry. Of course, on my website. It's at www.mamayaya.wixsite.com/website. Or you can follow me on Twitter at Mama Yaya Bright, or YouTube at Excerpts from My Resume, or you can just follow me there also on Facebook of the same name, Excerpts from My Resume, or just Google me. I'm Johanna Bright, and I'm your host for tonight's show. My blog tonight, radio blog, is about all the current events that have been going on in the past 13 or 14 days since the last hurricane hit. We're in hurricane season, people, and I didn't put it in my description, but I think that we need to talk about these conspiracy theorists who think that the weather is being controlled. Yeah, I gotta laugh at that. I also want to talk about my newest shero. Her name is Bethany Frankel. She is the skinny girl mogul. I will get back to her. And I also want to talk about not my president, Donald Trump, who finally made it out to Puerto Rico a day and a half ago. And also just touch on some current events. But more importantly, I just want to give you all some updates on how things are going in this country. And why I think that the term stay woke isn't quite doing it. That's just how I feel about it. So what's on the top of my list tonight? The top of my list tonight is, I want to say, you know what? My newest heroine, my shero, is Bethany Frankel. She is the Skinny Girl mogul. Skinny Girl, if you know about Skinny Girl at all. Um, and she is a currently the one of the Real Housewives of New York. And let me tell you what this woman did or does. First of all, she is the owner of the website Be Strong Delivering and Good.org /Be Strong /. Also, she also wants us all to know that we want to donate to women in crisis. That's just one of her websites. What did Bethany Frankel do? I woke up this morning, and as I do every morning after I read my scriptures, because I am a Christian, not your average everyday run-of-the-mill go to a Baptist church Christian, but I am a believer in Christ Jesus. After I read my scriptures, I go to the news and I want to see what's going on. And the first thing that popped up came from the Root. I believe it came from the Root, or did it come? Yeah, it may have came from the Root. But I'm not going to give them all the credit right away because they do write a lot of things. Bethany Frankel, and the top story was that she had chartered a private plane with food, supplies, medicines, and EMT. That means emergency medical technicians. She chartered one airplane. She's a mogul. She has the money, she has the power, she has the ability to do that. And she decided that that's what she was going to do. And a friend of hers decided they wanted to get in on that action, and they also chartered a plane with supplies and food and medical supplies, and another EMT, and another friend did it, and another friend of hers did it, and a huge company did it. And they all supplied Puerto Rico with supplies of food, money. Yes, they use gift cards, medical supplies, and EMTs. And this time yesterday, our time, she and all of those planes arrived in Puerto Rico and began the process of delivering all of those supplies, money, and needed necessities of life to the Puerto Rican community on the island of Puerto Rico. Bethany Frankel did that. And I'm telling you right now, look her up on Instagram. She has 1.4 million followers on Instagram. And she could use you to follow her too. I will follow this woman anywhere. You know why? Because she has the money, the power, and the ability to make things happen. And that's what we want people with money and power to do. We want them to execute things so that it can benefit the person who doesn't have it. And that's what she's did, and that's what she's doing. And don't we want all women to do that? All men to do that? We constantly complain about the rich, the powerful, and how they don't do anything. Guess what? She did something that, and I refuse to say his name, but number 45 still has yet to do it. And the military and everyone else is like, who is this guy? And why do we have to put up with his nonsense all the time? His administrators are like leaving him like left and right and right and left. The things he says goes viral because he tweets a lot. He's just so non-diplomatic about everything that he does, to the point where its entertainment value is keeping media going and going and going, and people think that they're awake to what's going on, and all they're really doing is falling into the rhetoric that he's spewing. And I'm going to just, you know what, let me just give you all a quick break, because this is Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. I am Johanna Bright, your host for the show, and I just want you all to just take a quick listen to this one. It's called Strange Bedfellows.
Strange bedfellows. Why do I cry for you, and I don't even know who you are? As every day goes by and tensions build around my world, I'm told to dislike, disapprove, disassociate, and to show disinterest in you. Show complete disdain for your thoughts, your theses, your theologies, your themes of life. I should dishonor. When I see you walking down a park lane, when I hear you sing a melodious song of joy or cry out in elation, when your tears of grief reach across the continents by air, by sea, by screams of agony, because your nation cries out in pain, I'm supposed to feel nothing, shrug my shoulders in disbelief, tell myself they don't have the same lifestyle as I do, they don't have the same life principles as I do, so it's not supposed to matter. So why do I cry for you when I don't even know you? Whether they like it or not, we have the same relations by blood. And whether they want to admit it or not, somewhere down the line, we went our separate ways. We began to define ourselves by our own imaginations because we were disenchanted by the leaders of men, because the leaders of men decided to disengage themselves from the powers of God and became their own gods. We became disenfranchised in each other's lives. Now, there's no disappointments, delusions, just disseminations of characters, defaming and disregarding of trust, because there is no more trust. So, why do I cry for you when I don't even know you? Why does my heart swell with emotion? Why do I smile at your children and awe at your babies? We celebrate life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We marry, we work, we achieve goals, we argue the point of our individual realities within our families, our friends, frenemies, enemies, passing acquaintances, strangers. And yet I cry for you. I shed tears of joy when you're happy. I pour out agonizing buckets of water from my eyes when you mourn. I worry when your dear loved ones, leaders, entertainers, military dignitaries go missing, get hurt, have an issue, plead for help. I'm right there with you. And I cry for you as though we shared the same house on the same street with the same neighbors, watering our lawns, trimming our hedges, planting flowers, vacationing, having family parties and impromptu gatherings. Why? Because, like it or not, we are all cut from the same fabric of the universe. So I can't just throw my compassion aside and pretend you don't matter when I know you do. Because if you didn't, why would you put so much effort into not loving me? Why would I put so much effort into listening to why I shouldn't love you? Why would so much effort be put into not loving you?
That was Strange Bedfellows. I think it's kind of poignant and it was right to the point for my discussion for tonight. Um, so, what I'm talking about right now is the lack of response that is being done for the crisis in Puerto Rico. Um, our president, oh my God, I can't even let those words come out my mouth again. I should wash my mouth out with soap, turpentine, formaldehyde, something, because trust me, he ain't my president. That just goes to the point where what my point is. We try so extremely very hard to be good citizens of this United States that we fall into the bullshit that they keep shoveling us. You know, when you go to a bad restaurant and you go, well, they got one thing on the menu that I like, so I'm going to go there and I'm going to eat that. Realizing even the best thing on their menu is the worst thing you ever tried, but you keep going anyway. And that's pretty much how I feel about our nation's administration. And I really hope it's not for the next 4 years, but I mean, it is what it is. So, just to dovetail and giddy up and get around to the beginning of this, he changed the narrative because he said he wanted people to boycott the NFL about taking a knee during the NFL football games. Well, little did he know, and he knows very little, it has nothing to do with the football game or, for that matter, the national anthem or the flag. It has to do with justice in our society and police brutality and the killing of innocent people. But what does he know? He doesn't ask anybody anything. And why do I say that? Because here we are, 14 days since the last hurricane hit. Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, devastated it. Devastated it. I mean, even we don't even want to go into the 2 earthquakes that hit Mexico, or the crisis that's probably never going to end in Flint, Michigan. But the current crisis that we're talking about tonight is the Puerto Rican crisis. The crisis in Puerto Rico, where people they're dying. So he has this sort of round table, and he really doesn't invite the people who matter to the table. And the people who he does invite to the table, he only picks to speak with because he wants them to give him some accolades for showing up. That's right. And the mayor of San Juan was there, and after the so-called round table, really he just wanted to hear somebody give him accolades for just showing up after the party. You know what I'm saying? She comes up to him. He shakes her hand because he knows that she's there. He's probably eyeballed her throughout the entire time, trying to figure out how he's going to do this, that, and the other one. We all know that all he did was shake her hand and walk away. But she said, as she was shaking her hand in the video, if you've seen this video, she told him, it's not about politics. It's about saving people's lives. And he did not respond to her at all. It's kind of like the cool kids in high school. They know that you got something to say to them, but they know everybody is watching. So rather than not embarrass themselves, all he did was shake her hand. He didn't even look her in the eye. He shook her hand, paused for her to say what she had to say, and then he walked away. That's how much number 45 cares about what's happening in Puerto Rico. I know a lot of people are talking about how he tossed paper towels into the crowd of people who were standing there. But trust me, the crowd of people who were standing there, they did not come to see him. They came to get the supplies that were there. And he, once again, took advantage of an opportunity to make himself seen around the world. And unfortunately, he's just done one more thing to make the United States of America look bad. He did. So, that's just who he is. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on too long about that one because I personally cannot stand the ground he stands on, the air he breathes. And I feel sorry for you, Melania. And I'm trying to tell you right now, girl, if you got a code word that says help me, blink the eye or stick out your tongue or something, Jay says say something. People can come and help you. But trust me, she just looks like a woman under pressure. She looks like she's being held against her will. She does. She looks like she's being held against her will every time she's with him. Anyway, let me let y'all listen to this next piece. I like to call it What Right Feels Like.
So, this is what right feels like. It doesn't feel like what you would have thought. I don't have more friends than before. People aren't hitting me up for advice everywhere I go. I haven't been invited to all the best functions. In fact, it's just the opposite. I thought I'd be feeling empowered and full of strength and determination. The will to soldier on, take a stand. Just the opposite. Every day, I have to find the strength to get up and face the day. Question my motives behind everything. Stand up for truth, dignity, justice, oppression, just doing the right thing. I have to check myself first, not be a hypocrite. Remember that.
Well, how about that? Think about it. Just think about it. I've been reading a lot of posts on social media, and they're saying, stay woke. Are we really awake? We're not. People still want to be entertained by the news, not by entertainers. If entertainers are on the news, then they feel like they're being entertained. But it's still them allowing themselves to be told what to think, how to act, what to say, who to prostrate themselves to, how to be indignant, upset, angry. And that's the problem. That is the problem. I posted this one piece earlier today on my social media page on Facebook. And I want to be very clear. I try to keep everything. Here it is. It is about this doctor. Oh no, she's an average woman, and she's not any average woman. I think those of you who have paid any attention, her name is Jane Elliott, and she did the social experiment 50 years ago with a group of white people, white students, the brown eye, blue eye experiment. And I have to tell you, and I read about her a few years ago, and it's amazing. She's been around for 50 years doing educational seminars and conferences to white people, opening their minds up to how they are racist and how they are privileged and how they just don't even understand. They've been drinking the Kool-Aid. We already know. It's not very much Kool-Aid for us to drink. But in order to keep a society down, you have to control the narrative of both sides. And so while they control the narrative of what happens with black people in this country simply by not producing laws that govern us fairly in our civil rights, they also produce laws that govern white people unfairly. Unfairly meaning that they don't have to work very hard to get things what they want. They think that they do, but they don't. Jane Elliott, she specifically said in an interview on September the 28th or the 29th, through the name of the people there was NBC Black. And they interviewed her. And what I took away from it was that she said this. She said every black person shouldn't have to get up the courage to wake up and face the day because every white person doesn't have to do that. And I say that because we're looking at a time where we are so, everybody kind of knew in the back of the head how racially divided we are. But then we get this new administration from the past administration, and the difference is like looking at day and night, quite literally. And people are like, are you fucking kidding me about what's going on in this country right now? Well, all this current administration did was flip over the beast, and we see the underbelly of the hatred that's going on. They don't care about what's happening to the people in Puerto Rico because there's nothing in it for them. There's nothing in it for them. If I'm not mistaken, and anybody can chat with me and say that, my chat line is open because I am live right now if you're listening. And here's what happened. Number 45 had some property in Puerto Rico, and it went belly up. And he took out loans and all of that crap. That's what rich people do because they have the collateral to do so. But he went belly up on that property, and it went south, and he left Puerto Rico in a mountain of debt that they could not recoup from him, and he wasn't trying to pay it back. All right? Think about that. So now Puerto Rico has been hit by Hurricane Maria 14 days ago, and he's finally saying, because it only helps him if he does it, he says he's going to forgive the debt of Puerto Rico. But that statement came after he said, I'm paraphrasing. Trust me, I'm paraphrasing. He said that they're going to ruin our national debt. He ruins everything he comes in contact with. And I do mean everything. But he's not who I'm talking about tonight. Right now, I'm talking about Miss Jane Elliott. She's an educator. I'm talking about Puerto Rico and the crisis. I'm talking about Flint, Michigan and the water crisis. It's all about life. I'm talking about Bethany Frankel. I'm talking about Beyonce. I'm talking about Stevie Wonder. I'm talking about Captain America, otherwise known as Colin Kaepernick. My son always says, Mom, just say Captain America because you never pronounce his name right. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. But that's what we're talking about. It's about civil rights and justice and injustice and how we're still living in, the era hasn't changed. We're still living in a time where this country can't get its shit together long enough to say we've wronged every fucking body in this country that's not of the white persuasion and we need to do something about it. Sorry, that's just what it takes. All right, so I'm going to take a quick break and you all are going to listen to this one, hopefully. It's called Why Not Us? Is it because I decided that our chances of living life in a safe environment increased exponentially when we moved into a small town surrounded by people who really aren't that interested in our welfare, but were and are still more concerned in the welfare population in their small town? Infested with concern. But I digress. This isn't about them. It's about us. It's about why it's my fault. As if I put a gun to your head and coerced you into making a decision based on fear. Well, what could I possibly frighten you with? How could I possibly threaten you? You who has held sway over my heart, my body, my breath. Is it because I was right and you weren't wrong? But you saw the logic in my perception and you decided with me instead of against me? Now you want to blame me because you decided now was a good time to voice your emotions after it's been all said and done for so long? While no decision is perfect, and I still can't tell the future, but the outcome has been favorable so far. But you can't be happy. You can't see the serenity of our life because you keep seeing the chaos of another. It's not our life that's tumultuous. Is it because you don't believe in happiness, contentment, serenity, peace? I know I don't believe in fairy tales, but there has to be a happy ending for someone. Why not us? We're not at the end, but we are at that part of love where we should be able to look out on the horizon and not be afraid to look back and certainly smile at each other because through it all, we overcame that desire to bail out and give up. And we both persevered through the storms as they came and thrashed down on our lives, threatening to rip us apart. But we're still here. We both know how to weather the storm. So, why not us?
You know, I say that all the time. Why not us? You know, I think that piece of poetry that is from the Journals of Joe Bright, which you can find on my website at www.mamayaya.wixsite.com/website. I'm Johanna Bright. This is Poetry Song, BFD, Battle for Dominance, and I am your host tonight. And we are talking about some current events. Basically, that's all I really want to do. I want to just touch on a couple of more things. A lot of people think that, first of all, that we have no recourse in a lot of things, and we do. Think about the last 15 to 20 years, maybe 30, maybe 50. The civil rights movements did take place. There were a lot of people in the protests. There was dogs and water and police, and there's a lot of atrocities taking place. But it was a core group of people at the end of all that exacted the change. And while people went home, and I'm just going to say this, and I'm a black person, so don't get me wrong. Don't flip the script and get it twisted. Those people went home and they took care of each other. But the people who took care of making sure that those protests happened, they continued to fight, and they were the ones who exacted the change that made the civil rights movement what it was in that day. Black Lives Matter is also a movement for change, for progress in this country. And people don't seem to understand that. It's no governing body. So as a person who wants to exact change, I am for Black Lives Matter. Because Black lives do matter. And we have to not let them control our narrative. We have to control our narrative. We need to know that when that narrative is trying to be taken away from us, that we have to take that control of that narrative back. And I say that because there's a lot of discussion about what happened in Nevada, and my heart and prayers and my prayers of comfort go out to every single person who has suffered a loss. Because nobody should have to lose a friend, family member, or even an acquaintance the way that those people had to. So the narrative is now about gun control and terrorism again. But there's
I completely fully understand that. There's always a discussion that has to be had. But just like anything else, the media is controlling the narrative by letting the people think, oh, we need to talk about this now. We can't talk about Puerto Rico. We can't talk about Flint, Michigan. We don't even talk about the earthquakes in Mexico. Now we got to talk about Las Vegas. Don't let the media do that to you. Find in your heart what you think is something that you know that has to be done and dealt with, and that you can have a say in, that you feel passionate about, and make that a part of your narrative. If you think that you want to talk about what happened in Flint, Michigan, don't think, oh, that was so... It's not over. Those people still have to get up every day and send their children back and forth to school. Daddy's got to drop those kids off at school and pick up some water. The kids still have to get off the bus and go and pick up some water. They need water to drink, need water to wash up with, they need water to cook with, they need water to wash their clothes with and clean up their house. And unfortunately, the people in Puerto Rico have the same problem. Find yourself a narrative that you can align yourself with, and then make yourself a part of that fight. There's a lot of fights going on, but find one that fits you and make yourself a part of that fight and be part of the solution. And do not allow the media to tell you what you need to talk about today, tomorrow, or next week simply because it's trending. We fall into that because why? And I love social media just like everyone else. I love social media, but I do not allow social media to tell me what I can and cannot think, say, feel, or do. It does not control the narrative of my day. It does not control the narrative of my life. Right now, that is my message to you. I'm thinking of Bethany Frankel. And while everybody is talking about the horrendous things that happened in Las Vegas on the Strip, and 559 people and counting are been killed and hurt. It's horrendous. And they're talking about gun control. And it's important. But we still have to think about the people who are dying, literally sick and need help in Puerto Rico. The people in Flint, Michigan. The children who were trapped in the earthquakes, not quake, earthquakes in Mexico. We allow ourselves to let the media to control the narrative of our conversations every single day. And when Donald Trump actually said that he wants people to boycott the NFL because of Kaepernick taking the knee, opposite of why I was boycotting the NFL for Kaepernick taking the knee. We allowed people in power to change the narrative of the things that we have to do. How are you awake? There is no fucking way you are awake if you are still allowing the media and the politics to govern how you control your day. Are you more interested in what happened in Nevada now than when you were interested in what was happening in Puerto Rico, than when you were interested in the 3 hurricanes that passed, than when you were interested in the earthquakes that happened in Puerto Rico? Or tell me, Kaepernick has been doing this for over a year, and he's been donating his money, his salary. Bethany Frankel, maybe she's doing something great right now, and thank you, Bethany. Girl power. Thank you, everybody who has fallen behind her and said, you know what, we have money and we can do this too. She chartered one airplane, and then her friends chartered another and another and another. And now 5 chartered private airplanes have landed in Puerto Rico to send people money, food, medical supplies, and yes, emergency medical technicians. There are 20-something Chicago firefighters on their way to help. But what is our government doing? What are they doing? FEMA? American Red Cross? What are they doing? From my estimation, they have told people, now we're talking about an island that belongs to the United States of America that is without power. The hospitals that they have no power to do anything. The people that have died in Puerto Rico in the hospitals have died because there's no power in ICU. intensive care units, people are dying there because there's no power. And FEMA and Red Cross are telling these people when they come to show up for help to go online and fill out a form. People are walking around trying to figure out where to get clean water to drink and to bathe and to clean their homes. American Red Cross is doing jack shit. You know why? Because there's no way people are going to give blood knowing full goddamn well that blood is not going to make it to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, where they are a territory in the United States of America, but they are not allowed to vote in our elections. They have no representation in our United States government. They have no senators. They have no congressmen. They have no representation. None whatsoever. They were the destination spot for vacations 10, 15, 20 years ago. But when that bottomed out, after the rich people had gutted it and they couldn't find anything else worth having, they threw it over their shoulder and they went somewhere else. And yes, you can thank Donald Trump for that. But then, you know, he's had a lot of really bad deals that he doesn't want to talk about. Anyway, my name is Johanna Bright. This is Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance, and that's something that we do all the time. I'm going to let you listen to this. It's called You Like to Fight.
Every time I open my mouth to say something, anything to you, I would freeze up inside, afraid. My mind immediately began to run through the scenarios of responses I knew you would have. I began, as I always did, to become angry and frustrated, my temperament changing within and my blood beginning to boil. I would tremble with anxiety and grip my teeth in the back of my jaw. That made my head ache. I could hear you tell me over and over again the very words that always stuck right in my neck where my pulse is, and I was ready to scream and throw things. I was ready to hurl my own insults along with them, and I hadn't even said one word out loud at that point. I felt myself losing control over an argument that hadn't even started, and yet I knew it was one that always lingered in the back of my mind. The unfinished one. The one that goes deep into the far reaches of the back of the closet where your favorite shirt slipped off the hanger and neither one of us noticed for a couple of weeks. And you became sure it was left at the cleaners. And even though you went back and checked and it wasn't there, somehow it was my fault it got lost. Because you couldn't have done it. But no worries. It's just a shirt. Albeit your favorite one because you like the way the color of it lies next to your skin. One word led to another, and we were in a full-blown argument. And the shirt was just the tip of the iceberg. In the end, we managed not to kill each other or destroy our relationship. We made it through that one. So now I want to say this one thing, and I am so certain it will end up in a maelstrom of remarks that we will both have to take back. Let me put on my fighting gloves, because that's always a chance I have to take. Here we go.
Isn't that how it goes, though? I mean, you can put that anywhere. I particularly like that when that's found in the Journals of Joe Bright. I am Joe Bright, Johanna Bright, your host for Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. Look me up on my website at www.mamayaya, that's MOMMAYAYA.wixsite, WIXSITE.com/website. And on there, you are going to read and hear and listen to some fabulous poetry. You're going to see my videos from my YouTube channel, excerpts from my resume. Joe's Poetry, excerpts from my resume. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Facebook, YouTube, Google+. Okay, I'm everywhere you want to be, read, and enjoy. I used to say I'm not political, but there is nothing in this life that cannot make you political. And while that last piece, which is called You Like to Fight, is definitely a personal relationship, you can put it anywhere in your life, and it will apply. Tonight I'm talking about the State of the Union. And I think that's funny that we would call this place the United States of America. Because, trust me, it ain't. I like to thank you for listening and for giving me this opportunity to voice my opinion. My chat box is always open. You can listen to me on demand, or you can chime in whenever you feel like it. You can download the app. I'm on Spreaker.com. And what I want to tell you tonight is your voice matters. Whether you reach 5 people, 10 people, if you're just talking to the person next door, your voice matters. Say something. Don't allow the media to dictate to you what's important in your life and how you should feel about anything. You're not awoke if you're letting them do that. Black, white, or in between. And there's a lot in between black and white. While blacks, unfortunately, in this country on the bottom rung of the ladder, whites on the top rung. So there's a whole lot in between on that count. I really want to, be the voice of reason sometimes, and I get pissed off just like everybody else. But the fact of the matter is, we have to control our narrative. We cannot allow politics, the media, or even someone else to tell us what we should think and care about and put on our plate every day, and consider the fact that what we do, what we say, what we think matters to our future, our children. Whether it's water for Flint, Michigan, gun control because of the children, the 21 children that died, the earthquakes. There's all kinds of stuff going on all the time. So we can't allow the media to tell us what we need to find and become important, because they're just trying to get shares on the open market. That open market being the stock market. Don't think about that. Think about how you can exact change in your life, in your little burb of the world every day. That's what I do. I try to find out, how can I exact change in my little burb of the world right here. I live in Hammond, Indiana. I'm sorry. It's a red state. It just is where it is. But trust me, wherever you are, you have to make that happen in your life. I'm Johanna Bright. This is Poetry Song, Battle for Dominance, BFD. I love America. I love the country that I live in. We have freedoms that nobody else has. That means we have a right to stand up for what we know is right. There was one story that I read at the end of the day. I want to share this with you before I go. There was a woman who was on her way to be with her family. They were going somewhere. I can't mention her name. But she was pulled over by the police, and she was trying to figure out what was going on, because she said she was going no more than 65 miles an hour on an interstate. And he said, and she was terrified. She was like, should I pull over? She pulled over. He told her to get out. She was scared. She said, should I get out my car? And she got out the car. He said, come to the back of the car. And she went to the back of the car. She was petrified, and she kept asking herself, what's going to happen to me? This was a black woman. And it didn't matter to her whether this cop was black or white or Puerto Rican or Mexican or whatever. It was a police officer, and she was terrified. And he said, I pulled you over because you're driving slower than everyone else, and I just wanted to make sure you were okay. And while that gave her a sigh of relief, she was like, I was petrified. I thought that this was my last day on earth. She was black, and it was a police officer. And it all dovetails to why Copernic, Captain America, thank you, took a knee. He didn't just take a knee because he felt like he wanted to take a knee, people. He took a knee after he spoke with people in the military. And I get this information from my son, who likes to research everything. Thank you, Matthew Bright. He researches everything, and he said, Mom, Copernic took the knee because he said first he was sitting down, and then he went and asked them, if people in the military, what's the thing that I can do that would not be disrespectful? And they said, take a knee. So he followed the instructions of people who were in the military. Don't let them keep controlling you. You want to stay woke? First you got to wake up. Stop letting people control the narrative of your life. I'm Johanna Bright. I'm a little pissed. But this is Poetry Song, Battle for Dominance. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you can download the app or listen in on demand on Spreaker.com. I'm on mamayaya.wixsite.com/website. Y'all have a good night, a good week. Thank you.